Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spartan Training Grounds Overpower podcast. I am Robert Wilson. With me, as usual, the prodigy, the champion, Andrew Taylor. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. How about you?
Good. We are packing. We are getting ready to move out of Texas and back to Columbus. It is coming. We are about 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, something like that. So we're getting there. But tonight we also have a special guest with us. Andrew, who do we got?
We got the CEO, Joe.
How's
the
it
boss.
going, everybody? Great to be here for my first appearance. That's great. Am I already on? Am I on?
You are now.
Okay. How's it going, everybody? It's great to be here for my first appearance on the Spartan Training Ground.
So,
Welcome.
Joe, this is something that always bothers me.
Yep.
And I need to ask you, how do you pronounce your last name? Because I dislike getting people's names.
It's French Canadian, so I was always told that it's pronounced Gagnepain, like Joseph Alois Gagnepain. But the American way is Gagnepain, like phonetically, like Guy in
Pan. Got it.
Yep. Okay.
I'm still going to say it wrong.
I always wondered that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that I also have it backwards on all the social media.
And Joe, this is the part of the podcast where I pressure you into coming to the upcoming NAOL Houston event, the Southwest Shootout.
Oh, I'm going to be there.
May 2nd and 3rd. You heard it. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Committed.
We've actually got a decent amount. Dave and I are both coming down for sure. Keith is also going to fly down. So I know at least the three of us. I'm not sure if either of the twins are coming, and I'm pretty sure Sean isn't available that weekend. But yeah, me, Dave, and Keith are in 100%.
Yeah, and I asked that because I'm looking at Top Deck now, and I see none of you have signed up.
Slackers.
That's how you gotta get people to events.
You got to invite everyone on the show one at a time.
How many do you think you're going to be there?
Total?
Yeah,
I think that's more of a question for you, Robert.
Yeah. So Chris and our goal was somewhere between 20 to 30. I think it'll probably end up being somewhere between 25 and 30. Like, because there's some people I know that aren't signed up, and assuming Joe and the other Lazarus Rising guys, 8. That's 19, and then Josh Alexander was talking about coming. That would be 20. I think there's someone else from the Columbus crew that's not signed up. There would be a couple other people. So
is anybody else from is anyone from Josh's crew coming with him? Any of those guys?
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. Josh was posting, playing in the Discord.
He was practicing
for Legacy. So, I'll take that. I'll take that as a good sign.
It's gonna be fun. Seeing, I'm very curious where the meta is gonna go after watching. Dave opened it up with Watson on the front line in Legacy. That is not something I had on my bingo card for any time soon.
the 70 card deck.
Yeah,
75.
Oh, wow.
The 75 card special, yes. Before we jump into that, just a couple more quick things about Houston event coming up. So, Joe, obviously you know the playmat. I know the playmat. Chris Rice sent it to me. Andrew, you don't. Any final guess before I reveal it to everyone?
I have no guesses at all. I would be embarrassed with whatever guess I gave. So, yeah, I just want to see it. I'm hyped.
I think there is really only one appropriate playmat
Billy the
for
Kid?
this event. It is Billy the Kid.
Oh, hell yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was my call.
How are you going to pry those out of Chris's hands?
He has already put out a bounty for one and said if someone wins one and he doesn't, he will give them a box. So I'm trying to help Chris get a playmat.
I'm sure he'll get one. It's destiny.
I think one of the things about these playmats that doesn't show up on the cards is just how vibrant the colors look when they are printed on the playmat. And Billy just has so much bright, vibrant color and contrasting colors, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be gorgeous.
The amount of detail you can see, one of the funniest stories we like to joke about is if you look at the Billy the Kid Learn to Play mat, there's like a black dot in the top right, like right on the border. And it's in the actual art. It's like a tiny piece of debris from the explosion, but it's like a pinpoint. You barely see it on the card. But when it's blown up, we've actually gotten the most complaints we've got about anything we've done have been people who think that's an ink spot that go, there's like a dot of ink at the top of my playmat. Like, what's that from? I think I need a new one. And we have to send them a photo of another one and be like, nope, that's part of the art. We just didn't notice it
How it's
when we
supposed to
first
be.
printed it. Yeah. So yeah,
Too
really
funny.
but I think the Billy the Kid single looks great.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the playmat in person. And for anyone else that hasn't seen it already, Chris posted a picture of the promo, the Few and Chris promo that will be given out to participants, as well as 8 foil copies for the top 8. And it's a beautiful 7 combat of the redhead. And you can see her, she's got a gun out, she's fighting 2 crows, 2 Annabelle crows, and it just looks great. It's so thematic and on there. You guys and Felipe have really killed what we've seen. I mean, it looks fantastic.
No kidding.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with we really let Felipe take over. We're really on top of the art for the most part. We've let Felipe spearhead it because he really wanted to focus on using primarily Brazilian artists that already have a connection to the Few and the Cursed, which obviously that's a tough thing for me to do because I handle all the art myself. But I have to say it didn't take very long for me to just kind of put my hands up and be like, okay, like everything I'm seeing looks fantastic. I particularly like the hero card. I'm terrible with the names, but the one that's like Bloody Mary, it's like a mixture of Bloody Mary and the Woman in White. Those 2 mythoses.
Something
She looks like
Rubio.
a bride.
Rubia.
Yeah,
Rubia Del
Rubia. I loved the piece that was like her character card. And then I really loved the piece of the redhead like looking in the mirror when she's all bloody. That one was really good too, where she's in like the bathroom. And that's actually funny because that's an artist I never, just somebody Felipe knew. And I was immediately like, yeah, give me that person's name. I want to have him do some Top Cow pieces.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's great giving more Brazilian artists a shot. I mean, I don't know. I just think that's such a cool opportunity for them, and for us as well to showcase more great artists.
Well, there's a decent amount of crossover, funny enough, because the main studio that we work for that does the most pieces is Joe Prado's studio, which is a Brazilian studio. And now these guys are all amazing. They're working for Marvel, DC, and Image. Like Wilton Santos, who was our artist who did the Mina Harker art, he did the Wicked Witch art, like the very recognizable art. He's also doing some of the Few and the Cursed. And Skybound and Top Cow. And you'll notice that with a few of them. There's definitely people that have worked with Felipe that were already part of the studio that we use down there. So it really is just kind of a natural fit art-wise.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. So have you seen the foils for the promo? Is it kind of like the cold foil style, the rainbow foil, or akin to like the Kickstarter? Like what's that finish like?
Is this, you're asking about the ones for the Few and the Cursed?
Yeah, the promo power card foils that were printed.
I'm assuming it's the same ones that we saw at the Pennsylvania event, which is that's a different printer. That's more of a kind of fun collector printer. It's not like one of the official ones we're going to be using. Not to say it's a bad quality, but obviously the like big printers that we're going to do the fulfill the Kickstarter with is a little bit of a higher end printer, not like upload images on the internet and send you cards. So it's very akin, if you guys saw our playtest cards, that's kind of the quality of the promo as opposed to what you get when you get it right off one of the big companies and it does like print press. So, but yeah, I think it's like a heat stamped foil on top. So a little less detail, like ours is ink on top of the foil, so you can really control which parts are shiny and which parts don't shine as much. And this will be more the traditional, like a layer of foil over it that just catches from the color underneath. If you remember the Zeus promo we did for the Battle of Boston that Andrew won, that was the quality that it'll be. So it looks good, but if you take that old one and you put it next to one of the foils from the full set, the full set ones are a lot more vibrant and detailed because they have the contrast.
But they're so exclusive, like it's fine. Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those go for sale yet. I know people have been asking, but I don't think I've seen one actually sell because
the old
ones wanted to give them up. The PA promos.
Yeah. I know one that sold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
probably
me.
People are trying to get a play set of them, so they're probably scooping them all up.
Yeah, so if you want to get that play set, you need to come to Houston. You can find the event on Top Deck. You can sign up there, just like Joe did. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Chris Rice. Yeah, We hope to see everyone out. We have great stuff planned. It'll be a fantastic event. We're really looking forward to having everyone in Texas.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm really glad that the timing's going to work out. I was nervous it was going to line up with like one of our conventions or panels that I've got to go speak on. So, plus it's like, it's fun that we get to play, that was, it's funny. This came up on one of I think a Facebook post. So when we started this, when I worked at Hasbro, I think I've told the story a lot. I started to do some game design there, and I was producing a lot of their e-commerce commercials, and they have a rule that once you leave, I believe it's 4 years before you can play Magic competitively again. So I was there for a year, so I was just about to go on the Pro Tour, and I couldn't do it because I got the job there. And so I just instituted the same policy when we started, is like, look, if you work for the company at all, you can't play competitively. And the NAOL leadership pushed us pretty hard to keep coming. So, we thought about it for a while, because originally I was like, nope, it's just conflict of interest. If one of us wins, with Dave, we were worried people were going to look at it in a bad light, but enough of the players were just we want you guys there. We want to interact with you. That's what's great about this game, is we kind of know it all. It's a community game. We have more agency, and we love that. We want that for the game too. So it is kind of nice, getting to just go to PA, not being responsible for running anything, and actually getting to compete again. I'd only been able to compete in one tournament in the last 2 years, which was the Sunday NAOL event they did after the first Columbus Regional. So it just was awesome to be able to do that, and I'm really looking forward to it again in Texas. I'm playing the same deck. Changed out the battle site.
Yeah. So, when I was preparing for tonight, I actually pulled your deck list. I see you're running my boy Count of Monte Cristo.
Yep. Well, it was really funny. I was 4-1 going into the last 2 rounds. I'd only lost one match, and then I played both. I played Nor and then Lawrence, who both top 8'd. So I basically just needed to win either one of those matches. And it was 2 JW decks in a row, which no one in my play group plays that, which is the fun part. You play with something, and my deck's just been tuned and running really well. But I didn't play anybody who played that card, so I just wasn't ready for it. And they both stomped me so bad. I couldn't keep, because part of my deck is I take a little more damage than the average deck, but then it just would get me in these situations where I couldn't block both JW and the follow-ups. It was really fun. I was happy to see them. I was happy to see Lawrence, and I have had some epic matches, so I was happy to see him go all the way to the finals. But I switched out to the Outback, so now I have the personal negate also, so I have an extra day JW defense. That's my big adjustment going into the next event.
Yeah, I mean, Dave did a podcast talking about his deck, so I don't want to steal the thunder. If you're interested in it, go check it out. Just real quick, he had Watson, Zeus, Starjammers, Deathbird, Spartan Training Ground, the Outback. And he said he used 7 Thunderbolts and 4 Watson shifts as a way to basically throw Watson in front of Zeus and generate card advantage. Deathbird can block from reserve with power cards, and really had a great all around game plan. Lawrence, Beast the Brute, Heroes for Hire, Van Helsing, Silver Sable, Barsoom, Age of Apocalypse, and the Crossing. I remember looking at this deck and thinking, why is he playing Barsoom? And then I remembered Morph and his chain stats. I thought that's such a cool.
And that's one of the funnest things about when we do this, is we're so meticulous about going through the cards, and then it's great when somebody catches. We love when somebody figures this stuff out. So when we made Barsoom, we went through the Overpower CA and found every grid enhancer and just missed the morph one. It works so differently. It wasn't on the search we did, and it didn't. No one thought of it. And so then Howard was playing it, and it's just, we love those moments of no, that's great. That's such a great strategy. And then, of course, what Lawrence was doing, which is pumping up Van Helsing so he has the same stats as Heroes for Hire, can immediately go fetch the 8 and then throw a JW with it, is ooh, it was good. It was very good. I actually love, too, the Deathbird thing is great, where it was for so many years, Deathbird, she was unplayable. People didn't even think that ability was worth it. And then with just the tweak to the utility of the reserve cards and how the astral plane works, that was one of the ancillary benefits, was now because defensively the transition into being a power card works immediately and it's actually a power card, it can be used as the inherent, and that little tiny bit of consistency in the rules made her playable. And now, obviously Justin Sadie, I think, really put her on the map with the amount that he uses her a lot of tournaments and has had a huge amount of success. And so I love seeing that too, when there's kind of a group think for so long and then somebody just comes along. I mean, honestly, Andrew, very similar to your Galactus, like just something that is like considered to be common. There's a group think of like, well, you can't win a tournament with like a Galactus teamwork deck because people have tried it and no one did it. And then you came in at the right time and just said, nah, like there's clearly it can win. So I think as a designer, watching people figure things out with the combos that you wouldn't think of, that you never thought of, and all the work you put in, is one of the funnest parts of getting to design the game. So
yeah, that's one of the best parts about having you guys being able to play in the NAOL stuff. You know what I mean? Like it keeps your skills being sharpened at all times, and then it helps you design even better because you're not just like abstract and just reviewing data. Like you're actually in the thick of it.
And I think I've noticed it because I've been a little busier with my, like, all the appearances and the cons we've been doing, but like, especially when we're sending all the other designers there too, it's, I haven't had an event yet where I don't have texts afterwards of like, hey, I was playing and I thought of this idea for a card, or what if we did something to manipulate this area of the board? And, I think as designers, that's just something I'm always going to really want to have, is some kind of league, whether it's, hopefully it continues to be the NAOL forever, and that's sort of always the de facto owners league. Yeah, I really think you need to have your designers playing in tournaments that they, not just like Friday Night Magic where they're goofing off and they're not really like, you need to have them playing in a competitive environment where they care about winning. It's like you can't play poker for like fake money. It's not real poker. You just like throw the chips in whenever you want. I think it really does help with the design. I've seen so many great ideas come right off the heels of a tight game, Greg in the finals at Columbus and things like that.
Yeah, I was excited to see Barsoom after Andrew and I were basically saying Barsoom. Like, who could ever win with Barsoom? And Lawrence, who is, if you've ever played Lawrence in person or in the online webcam league, it's just a beast every time.
He is a beast.
And
no matter what ham sandwich he's playing.
It's funny. There's one thing I will say that I chuckle to myself about it. It's not something that like bothers me, but I feel like with what we deal with the legacy community is like, everything takes so much longer. And when you're getting into a new game, you don't realize it because the game just comes out. And then all the apparatuses are set up to like have a new set come out. Well, we're doing this thing that no one's ever really experienced with. Let's run a season for a year turned into 18 months. Let's like build this up as a season 0. Let's try to get the old community back in who's been playing in this league for 10 years. So it's a very different beast. And it makes me chuckle because if you rewind to when we first dropped ERB, we got a lot of great reviews. People love playing with it, but basically the consensus of almost every Legacy player was like, it's designed to be weaker, though it'll never see play in Legacy. And like, even on some level, I kind of agreed with it. I was shocked how much of that set we saw in Legacy, but it affected it as much as any other set that's ever come out. Like, there's rarely a deck that doesn't have at least one of the new characters doing something, and things that we don't think of. So exactly what you're talking about, we actually thought we bricked Barsoom too, because the original design was you could always get the power card no matter if the grid was improved or not. And that was just getting to be overwhelming. We had a few play testers in our group that just made a version of it where they were running like 8/8s, and they were just running multiple characters, and they were just pulling an 8 they'd play an 8, they'd pull another 8 the same hand, there was sometimes in the first hand they'd throw 3 8s at you, and it was just becoming a little bit of an issue. And so that's why we gave it the nerf, and then we were like, we don't know what the sweet spot is. And then Marcel was one of the first ones that brought it, that had a really successful run with it. And then you turn around and you're like, it's great. You see somebody, figure something out down the road because they decide to go against the groupthink, and they're like, hey, like, I bet this could do something. And so, I think that's a really big design principle for us, is like, understand that this stuff might take time. We might put Skybound out and we might be 2 sets down the road before someone figures out a combo with the Flaxens or with Cecil. And I think that that's really cool that we're seeing that. But the thing I chuckle about is I still feel like there's not a trust for us yet. Like, I feel like we still haven't quite earned that trust of, like, just be patient. Like, we're going to get there. Our team's growing every day. We're becoming more like the full-fledged corporations every day. Like, just give us a little bit of trust that we're going to listen to everybody and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like, what I think of as sideways design, like in Magic, instead of, power creep where you're just kind of, like, going forward, but, like, expanding. And Barsoom seems like a place where there's design space for it. And, like, for Magic people, like, the example I always use of sideways design was Kaldheim. I don't know if you were around for that or if you played that. Limited,
I think it was a little before. I really got into Magic around Magic 2010, so I think that was before that.
But this is like a recent set. This was.
Oh, then it's after my time.
Yeah, you might have laughed. It was within the past like 5-6 years.
Okay.
Something like that. But they just, instead of power creeping, they just kind of found design spaces that were like adjacent, but without being oppressive. And I thought that was a really cool use of space. I don't remember who was the lead design on that set, but
I think that's a really good way to explain it. We've got the advantage of, that's the huge advantage our rarity model gives us, is we're never trying to design the bigger, badder card that you need to buy to stay relevant in play, which makes the game very difficult to balance. I think the fact that we didn't have to ban a single card in the first set, arguably maybe we should have done something with Grim Reaper, but we also didn't even design that card. We're trying to not make too many changes from the old game. And the fact that, we only had 3 characters that had never seen play in a tournament out of 41 playable characters. And then, Andrew, you came in and used one of those 3 and won the Nationals. So, again, I think it just goes to show you that, especially with a character-driven game like ours, in Magic, it's so weird. It's a very different way that the meta develops, because any card, if you play blue, any card can go in. And so you sort of figure out pretty fast, like, all right, like, these ones aren't powerful enough. These ones synergize really well together. Here's, like, the best deck with blue, for this format. And that stuff irons itself out pretty fast with millions of people talking online. But when you're playing a game like this and it's like, okay, you have 41 characters, it's like you have infinite combinations almost. And so it really takes a long time to develop that meta. And so, I really think you're going to constantly find that is very different in Overpower, where someone is going to figure out like a trick or a combo or a synergy a year after a set comes out that no one thought of. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's I think everybody wants to go in and have, I feel like there's definitely always a subset of players that want to figure out the meta or go against the grain and come up with something creative that also works. And that's one of the things I love about Overpower, is I think it really gives you that space. If you look at the decks that won the last 6 legacy events, they're widely different. John Lewis is winning with a Joan of Arc deck. Dave's bringing Zeus in. And that's always been one of the things I love about Overpower.
Creativity is rewarded,
for sure,
and having to do analysis on the spot. That's something. If when I was playing really competitive Magic, and I was getting, if I went to a Grand Prix and I had 2 buys, like I'm jumping in round 3. And I sat down, and the guy, as soon as I see a mountain go down in Standard, I'm pretty certain I could probably tell you 99% of the cards that I was about to face. And that's not even true within the character. One thing we try to do that I think is a little unique to our design is, one thing is, we're not trying to we don't want there to be bad cards. And that's just a difference between the 90s mentality of it being trading cards into the mentality of us wanting a really awesome playable game. They would intentionally make really weak cards, really strong cards. The idea wasn't, like, our motto is we don't want to print chaff. We don't want to print a card that we know no one's ever going to play. And so we'll often have cards where it's like, well, there's 2 different builds for this character. Here's a defensive build. You're going to want 3 of this card, but you're not going to have room to put 3 of this other card. Or you're going to have like a more offensive build. You're going to have 3 of this card, maybe 1 of the defenses. John Carter's a great character. Like, there's not very many John Carter decks that run 3/8 any powers and 3 teammate avoids. Because then you also have to run probably Immortality, and probably you're going to be running his Combat Brute Force Lockout. Well, now
And
at
the
that
8
point, I'm
multi.
already... Yeah, then I'm up to 8 cards, and I don't even have the 8 multi. And so am I doing 9? Like, you know, and so there's definitely very different ways to think about how to build that character. Like, I've had decks where I'm running 1 teammate avoid and no lockout and just trying to do 8s and 7s across my whole front line. I've also had builds with, you know, like what Dave was doing, shifting the attacks away so I can get the teammate avoid or something similar to that. So that's a really interesting way we try to design, is we don't always, we want to really think about it like, you know, I think it's like when you hear writers talk about writing characters, and they say the biggest step as a writer is when the characters you're writing don't just sound like you. It's not like 5 versions of you in a room having a conversation. You can really craft it to be the dialogue and the motivation of a completely different brain. I think when we design, the hardest thing that I find with kind of leading the design team is if you have a way that you play, it's really hard for some people to design a different way to play. Like, if I'm a blue control player in Magic, to use that analogy, I might have a really hard time designing red aggro. But we still want red aggro in the game because that's the way some people love to play. And that's a lot of, I think, the biggest hurdle is getting people outside of that mindset, and then also just making sure we're coming up with ideas so the different ways people want to play the game, they can.
That's my favorite thing about Joan, is she's just kind of the epitome of that. I mean, you can take a control role with her and 221B and Juggle Visions and just have that information, take their best card, or you can have this kind of like aggro beat 'em up style where you're just throwing these chain attacks with it and then an 8 on top of it. And, you know, you kind of bet like, well, do I want the defense? There's just so many different ways to play her. And even like looking at Hercules, like I think, you know, maybe there isn't a support character in ERB that you're just like, oh, that these two go together. You know, kind of like you see Watson with some characters or Wicked Witch. But you could take him in Legacy and just right from the jump, you can put, you know, some great characters around him and kind of, you know, it can be this tempo shift of, well, I need defense here, I need offense there. And yeah, I mean, I used Hercules last year for this event and loved him.
I think you're hitting on something really important that goes back to what I said earlier, which is the reason I think we do see so many of the ERB characters in Legacy is what we didn't anticipate is some of the characters that have a little more complicated builds or a little slower build up. Sometimes it's hard to get these setups in Modern because characters die a lot easier. It's not a full defensive set with 9 or less avoids on multiple characters, negates on cheap characters, and battle sites. And so some of these characters, as soon as you put a battle site into the mix, they have time to ramp up and get going. And I think like that's exactly what I found with my Moriarty deck, where Dave has got a great Moriarty deck in Modern, don't get me wrong. I've struggled with him with my play style, but as soon as I put a battle site in, all of a sudden Moriarty was like, he wasn't dying, and I was like starting to set up that infinite chain of the mathematical genius. So I think you're exactly right. And I think that's also the fun thing now about starting to have 2 different formats, is I think where once Skybound drops, I think there's definitely things in Modern that'll be fun that in Legacy are going to be like insanely powerful. You know, I think I'll spoil a card for you guys. It's one of my favorite cards while we're here talking. Let me actually pop it up so I'll read you the exact text, because some of these are going to drop pretty soon anyway. So Adam Eve has probably my favorite individual card in the game. So she's got Redirect Electrons. And what it says is, for remainder of game, when Adam Eve's team plays a non-numerical card with power type or types listed, she may change each power type to any other power type of her choice. So what that means is in modern, any card she plays, like to keep it on John Carter, he can avoid combat brute force. She could just make that, if that card's in play, it doesn't get negated. Now when he plays it, he can make it whatever power types he wants to be locked out of from the battle. He's up against an intellect deck. Now he's locked out against intellect. Offensively, like pair her with Victory Harbin. She can pick what power type to make them discard all the copies of from hand. So, but where it really starts to get interesting is Legacy. Now, it's harder to get through because Legacy's so negate heavy. But imagine an Absorb Sound where I choose the icon that doesn't hurt me at all, and I can choose a different icon for the second half of it. I don't have to keep them uniform just because the original card was uniform. So I can say, oh, I don't have any intellect in hand. I'll discard all intellect from hand. You discard all combat placer in hand. Oof. So there's going to be some like really, really nasty combinations, or even just simpler stuff that you might not even have to plan for, like, you know, Flash's tapping the Speed Force, you know, or Robin's his draw 4. Those cards are always making you discard a power card of the main character's type. So then if you want to discard a 1 or a 2, you have to play those in the same type as your main suit. It weakens your Spectrum ability. Suddenly with that 1 per deck in play, I could say, oh, all right, I'll just do whatever power card I have that's like a 1 or a 2 or a 3, I'll just change it to that power type to discard for the draw 4. So like it just starts to open up all these like different things, or like whatever my teammate avoid a power type is to draw a card, now it's just basically teammate avoid numerical draw a card, because I can make it whatever power type I want. So I think that's where I really get excited about the future of the game, is just like, what is somebody going to come up with this, you know? Like, what's
Can you change EFL to energy or brute force?
Which one is it?
EFL? Can you?
Oh no, 100%. Yeah. Whatever power type you want.
Boy, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now remember,
there's
though,
so much in there for that.
You do have to negate it, or you do have to get it through. And every deck in Legacy usually has multiple negates, so it's going to be a lot harder to resolve it. But there's going to be a lot cooler effects when you do. So
in modern, that's going to be crazy.
There's a unique card. Like I think one of the things I really liked you guys did was having very unique cards for characters, kind of like Power Mimic in Legacy. Like there's no other character with Power Mimic. Having things like EFL or rearrange molecules there for Adam Eve, I think that's really cool. It gives a flavor and texture that you just won't find with other characters, and really makes characters unique.
Well, and even when we're repeating cards, we tried, like, I'm glad you noticed that, because it's very intentional. So you'll notice we've designed all of ERB, all of Top Cow, all of Skybound, and we haven't announced the new set yet, but we did just sign it. So we've got a huge IP that we're working on how to roll out the announcement for, and we started designing that. So we've designed 3 sets ahead of what's out right now, and like we've never repeated a Wane of the Heart, a Penance Stare. Like, that's Anubis. He's got that. No one else has gotten that powerful 1 per deck yet. And that whole design principle actually comes from that card, where if you guys, I don't know how much you played in the first couple of sets, but Penance Stare came out in Power Surge, the second set that came out. Now, Green Ghost Rider was I think he was 6/6/5 in the first set. So he was like, Max 6s were very tough to play in original there, just because there was not even any character cards until the set after that came out. So there's like no defense. But there was just always this thing of like, but even Ghost Rider, man, if you get that Penance Stare off, it's like the craziest card in the game. And that's his ability from the comic, and it felt like what that ability was. And so for us, it's like, he kept it, like, no one else got that card till Monumental. Like, people don't realize it, but Raza, randomly, when they gave the Starjammers every 1 per deck in the game, they gave somebody else, and then I think Cyborg got it in Justice League. But yeah, that was really for a long time like his ability, his 1 card that did that. And I love that. I think that you'll notice that more and more, is that when there's really, like, I mean, I can definitely tell you we're not giving another character a defensive Harness the Wind. There will never be more than one of those in Standard at once. And we're learning as we go, too. You know, if I had a time machine, I'd flip-flop and make Ra the 19, and I'd make Wicked Witch the 20.
For sure.
I'd make Leonidas 7 combat, and I would have given the 8 to Lancelot. And I think that would really kind of level set those two kits perfectly.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure every designer thinks that constantly with their stuff. So probably would have made Invisible Man a 16.
Yeah, only 3 non-played characters, or 2 in all the tournaments, though. That's still a phenomenal achievement.
And I'm going to call it right now. Someone is going to start playing, like, the playing attacks face down card for Invisible Man. Someone's going to start playing that card. I think once you see Alan the Alien be able to go fetch a teammate special, that's going to open up a lot of people trying things, being like, if I can get that Invisible Man card out before, like at the beginning of the game, it's going to be really tough. I think the same thing with like Deja Thores, Diplomat to All Martians. Like that card is insane if you get it in the first couple of hands. Like the rest of the game, if they want to go 2, they're giving you that card draw. I think once Alan the Alien comes out and starts fetching his teammate specials, you're gonna see a lot of characters that people thought weren't playable become playable.
And he's hard to kill.
I kind of wanted to shift towards the meta and kind of ways to attack it, just to round out the rest of the top 8. Derek Bertrand with a combat deck, Bullseye, Nightcrawler, Spider-Girl, Sabretooth joining the top 8 characters.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Jonathan Lewis, yeah. Tarzan, Abomination, Beast the Brute, Silver Sable, Outback, Round Table, and Fatal Attractions. Getting Tarzan in there, that's pretty
and
cool.
I believe, was he number 1 seed going into the top 8?
I didn't look that up at Top Deck, but I saw Tarzan and immediately just thought, yes, like, good for you.
If he wasn't undefeated, he was only like 1 loss, I believe. I'm pretty sure that deck was tuning, like he was knocking people out all day with that thing.
Because Tarzan and Abomination both have a 1v1 me, bro, right?
Yeah, yep. And that card is so strong, man. I was playing Red Skull on my Intellect deck last season, and I couldn't really get it. I couldn't quite get it past the 4 and 3. I played it 3 times, and I got 4 and 3 every time. But man, that card just won me games sometimes. Literally, yeah. Like I'd just be like, all right, this guy's playing any heroes. I've seen his Merlin. I've seen his Avoid. I've seen 3 negates go by. I don't think he's stopping this. Like I'd keep everything in hand Tarzan could play. And just throw it on and be like, oh, all right, well, I guess you just knocked out 7 of my cards. There's nothing I can do.
There are ways to generate card advantage right here.
That's right.
Doug is playing an Intellect deck. Fantastic. Joan of Arc, Invisible Woman, Victory Harbin. His usual go-to with Age of Apocalypse, Team Overpower. D. Lopez and Nick Spivak both playing the Cadillac. So that's a lot of ERB in there.
Yeah, for sure. And, people making the top 8 with the Cadillac, I think this is one thing I don't know how publicly we said this, but when we designed the new stuff, our goal was always the stuff that was good should still be good. If somebody played a Cadillac style deck 20 years ago and they want to show up, like, they should lose if they're rusty. They should lose if they make mistakes. They shouldn't lose just because their cardboard isn't as good as the new cardboard. And so I actually like seeing that, like, Nick Spivak, somebody that is busy. He doesn't have the time to fly to every event. So he only gets to play when the events are close to his house. I love that he can just show up with a deck he knows how to play and still top 8. But that deck I don't think the Cadillac's won a deck in 2 seasons. I think the last time it won was when Phil Miller forgot his deck at home and just had to play, like, borrow someone's Cadillac and then won with his.
Love that.
I mean, last season, there was really a lot of energy. Like, energy was just so far and away predominantly kind of the go-to. And then you kind of saw strength and Heroes for Hire decks picking up. And here we're really starting to see a lot more balance between kind of all the decks. It's not all energy all the time anymore, and there's seeing Abomination as opposed to just everyone just straight going for Heroes for Hire.
And seeing Abomination winning, like, that's really, you'll see decks sometimes that have them, but it's almost like someone will throw them on as like the 4th character just to say they did it, but like watching Abomination and Tarzan like run the field during the Swiss, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, so if you are going to Houston and you're gonna, battle me and Joe, what do you what do you guys think? What is a way to attack, this meta, kind of what we've been seeing lately?
Galactus, duh.
Are you going, Andrew?
No, I wish. I will not be there.
Is anybody from the Seattle crew going that you know of?
I don't think so. I think we're missing this one.
We're getting to the point where it's not going to be sustainable for people to go to 6 or 7 events that you have to fly to a year. Even when getting up to 5 and then 6 events has really only happened the last couple of years. So it's not a surprising thing. I honestly am hoping we're getting to a point where each local event has 20 or so people of their own, and then everybody else flying in is cool when it can happen. But, that's hopefully with all this. We're just about to start launching our full promotion, like our print advertising, our commercials, our video stuff, really trying to penetrate and build out that young person, Invincible, Walking Dead, Skybound fan market. And so I don't really even know what it's going to look like in a year or two. We're basically at about 1,000 people right now that are real core followers / in-person players somewhere. And we're hoping to we're hoping to be at 20,000, so we're hoping to X that by the end of this year. So who knows? These local NAOL events might start having 50 or 60 people with nobody flying anywhere.
That would be awesome.
It's always cool when we were kind of like recapping, like, oh, who do we think's going to go? And when you see people that this is kind of like their first event, or they just haven't been, and they're like, yeah, I picked you up and, I saw on the Discord, or I, saw like videos, like YouTube videos online. And I just thought I'd come out. I mean, I was selling some of the prize pack cards, and I sold one to someone in England. And that was just so off my radar. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I don't know who they're playing with in England, or maybe they're playing webcam, but I just, seeing more and more people kind of pop up, I think is fantastic.
It's been one of the things that's been funnest for me, because we worked very hard it's very compartmentalized. You're trying to advertise, you've got to get in with the distributors. Well, the distributors don't really want to carry you unless you're in with the stores. The stores aren't really going to want to carry you unless the players are asking for the game. The players aren't really asking for the game unless they're like seeing the game somewhere. So it's like this weird, it's like, how do I get experience if you don't give me the job type of thing? Like there's this, it's really hard. And, we've been really lucky with the team that we've been able to hire has experience in the industry to penetrate all the distributors. But it's been funny watching, if you rewind to like 3 years ago, we would talk to a retailer and they'd sort of be like, Overpower? Are you talking about that game from the 90s? Oh, so you guys are bringing it back? Yeah, whatever. Like, thinking it's like a cash grab, or it's not, the amount of, we had so many people that walked up to us after the Kickstarter at tournaments and were like, well, I just assumed it was a scam. I didn't think there was any way Overpower was actually coming back. And so they didn't back the Kickstarter. It's just like, no, we're doing it. It's real. And that's like shifted. So then it started turning into like, for like a year, it was like, oh yeah, I've been hearing about Overpower. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Like, and then it's like flipped again to now we've like done enough outreach. We're talking to enough stores that now it's like, oh yeah, Overpower. Like, I just need to be able to build out a community. Like, what do you guys? And then now they're asking the questions and engaging. So it's been really fun to watch that evolution and watch that change. And I think we're seeing that in a lot of like Magic players or people who like have had it on their radar but weren't players before. Is like, as soon as the Invincible stuff started to come out and they started to see it with sort of that same thing, it went from like Overpower, I just play Magic, to like, what is this other game? This looks really fun. And that's been fun to watch too. The response at the conventions the last 6 months, as soon as we got the actual Skybound cards to do the demos with, has been insane. When I would demo games, when I used to do demos for other companies, if we had 5% of the people that demoed the game go buy the game, that was like what our goal was. We are seeing roughly an 80% conversion rate of like Magic players and TCG players who do the demo and then are like, okay, this is great. They'll go up and buy starter decks and start to learn how to play. And so it's really just going to be a matter of us like getting the product out there for people to try. You guys have seen our booth space. It's usually pretty simple, like running 3 demos at once, a 10 by 20 booth. we're going to be expanding this year to more like what you see with the other big games. We're going to have huge amounts of play space and a bunch of tables and, 3 sections of booth in the back with like retail tournaments that we're running. And so we're really going to be able to start running a lot more demos and getting the footprint a lot bigger when we're at conventions, and just so much stuff down the road that we're excited for. That's all going to be kicking up in the next like 3 or 4 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. For Andrew, did you have any thoughts on the kind of meta before we kind of move on to some Q&A with Joe?
No, not really. Honestly, I have no idea what I'd bring. There's just so many different options. I would definitely be looking to inject an ERB character. Yeah, because there's so many combos and stuff like Joe was mentioning. Or see if lightning strikes twice. Bring Galactus again.
Teamworks are still one of the hardest things to deal with. Every tournament I tell myself I'm playing a person with a teamwork buster. I get so frustrated. That was actually what happened to me in the Nor game in my second to last round in the Swiss. Is I'm like looking at my hand and I'm like, all right, I've got a negate, I've got this, I've got like low power cards. They're not going to be able to chain me out. And then I just wasn't even clocking the any power teamwork, and he just went like 6. It was like the 7 one, so it had the bonus. So it was just like 6, and then he played an 8, and then he played a 7 that was an 8 on a max 7 guy, and I just couldn't block the teamwork. And it was like the very first attack he threw, I lost a guy, and I'm just like, these goddamn teamworks.
Yep, they'll get you.
And I could have blocked. Actually, I could have blocked the teamwork, but I was like, I'll be feed. Yeah, yeah. And then as soon as he threw the 8, I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm an idiot.
Rip.
I am planning on playing an ERB character. I've got 2 decks sleeved up. One is the deck I played last year, so I may be running Hercules back. The other, this is probably the deck I'm leaning towards: Wonder Woman, Joan of Arc, Zealot, and Silver Sable with B. I mean, I think that a couple people have played that deck in the past and had success with it.
Hey, look, if you're playing Zealot and Wonder Woman, and that's just awesome to see. Like, I love seeing characters that are suddenly useful because the other car is introduced to the environment.
I also want to push myself to play without a negate character, just like kind of where I was like it feels like a crutch to me in a way, because I'm very much of the mid-range style, which is exactly like what the other deck of Heroes for Hire, Hercules, Beast the Brute, and little 3-stat Spider Woman is. It's basically just like that mid-range all-around style. So try something different.
You're never gonna see negates not be an amazing card and a key piece of defense on a lot of decks. But I think one of the things people think we hate negates. It's not that. To go back to the way I was explaining it from Magic terms, I really feel like the people got the game, the Legion and, Ron and his team who did a great job. They got the game to a place where it was very control, like Blue. Everything was defense, and it was kind of, you played your cards until you could just get that one thing through at the end and kill a character or win a big venture. And I feel like it sort of kind of got away from the other ways to play. Like, before we started to revamp it, you didn't see a game end by character KO ever. It was like, that was like the rarest thing in the world. And that really shouldn't be the case. Like, character KO should happen sometimes. And that makes me happy. I think we've gotten the environment to a place where you don't need to do that. You're exactly right. Like, you're not like the bad news bears if you don't have a negate, and it's going to be like a miracle if you win. It's, negates are still great, but Dave just did it. Dave had a great deck without a negate, and he figured out his system to do that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, not the modern environment, because you don't have some of those crutches, and the restriction breeds creativity and kind of thinking of different ways to play. Like Andrew and I have talked about in other kind of casts, like the inevitability factor of some particular cards and having that as a strategy. And you can kind of do that and play this long game and look to knock characters out and want to go to the power pack. Whereas, before that just kind of wasn't a thing. Like you really did not want to go to the power pack. So.
And that's something too from a design space. A lot you'll be able to pick out a lot of my designs where I think it's very important. I look at design as everything that's on the board, there should be a character that their role is to manipulate it. Whether it's discarding your placed cards, helping you move your missions around like Billy the Kid does when he kills somebody, or, like playing attacks face down, like everything you can do, there should be a character that manipulates it. And then we just have this thing in Power Pack that nothing really affects it, nothing touches it, and you just get to like what I find to be kind of a dull thing at the end of an interesting game. So for me, a lot of the designs I've been doing has ways to seed cards into the Power Pack. Cecil, not to give away too much about his mechanic, but his inherent is that he can block with allies. And that's why we really started to get granular with breaking down the defense. Blocking is using a numerical card of equal or greater value. So he can actually take any of the allies and use them defensively on him or his teammates. And that's like his shtick. He's always recruiting the different heroes. But then he's got a card that reshuffles all the allies into the deck, and they're all +1 to block after that. So then he can do it again, and then he gets to discard him into the Power Pack for the rest of the game. So now if you go to Power Pack, he'll have all these full team defenses that he can use that are like level 4s and things like that. And that's going to be one of the things where you make a choice. It's like, well, Cecil's 21 points, but if I go to Power Pack, I'm going to have a huge advantage if he makes it there. And I think you're going to start to see stuff like that where you can have a mill deck or try to get to Power Pack faster and have another way to try to win the game.
The Poseidon fans are cheering for you right now.
I mean, who doesn't want to play? Poseidon is so fun and he just hasn't found his home yet.
So excited to see everyone for that, and looking forward to kind of seeing what new. It looks like something new has come out of each successive Legacy event, and even in the modern space. So looking forward to seeing what people come up with. And I'm going to set up recording gear for it. So if you've got something cool to play, let me know. Maybe we can capture it on camera, especially the first couple rounds. Those are always the fun. Let's just get the craziest thing we can find on camera rounds. Yeah, let me know if you're bringing something spicy. I want to see it. Now, Andrew and I came up with some questions and also solicited some questions from some people. We kind of want to hit those too while we got Joe. Andrew, do you want to start?
Yeah, let's do it. So a couple of these he's kind of already answered throughout the podcast. A couple of them are quick answers, and then a couple maybe a little bit more in depth. So we've had a couple fluctuations. What's the current delivery window for Skybound and the Few and the Cursed, and when's the expected time frame for Top Cow?
So we had the big delay till August. We've been loosely talking about mid-August. I think we're going to actually launch officially a little bit earlier. We're targeting August 5th now. Sweet. And the reason for that is we were targeting the 15th, and they just with Magic releases, they've got a Hobbit set that's coming out right before that. And so we want to make sure that we really let players be able to go into their stores and play, and they're not going up against a pre-release or some big event that's going to happen in the store. Few and the Cursed, the intention is to try to get it out as early in the season as we can. In a perfect world, this should be, knock on wood, a lot easier to deliver than the uncut sheets were in the whole debacle we went through. We're switching to a new 3PL, a third-party logistics company. We're not going to be partnered with who we were partnered with anymore. Unfortunately, issues with what was formerly Cardio were just a little too much for us, so we've decided to move on. I have a lot of faith because I believe the Few and the Curse is being fulfilled by I don't want to say that because I'm not sure if it's the same company Felipe used for the comics, but it's not going to be the one that we've used. So we've talked to a few that we're going to try to make our permanent one that we've got a lot of faith in, that seem like they really have the experience to minimize the frustrations, I think, on both sides of the ball that we've had. I know I've been extremely frustrated with how some of the fulfillment went, and I'm certain that the fans have too. So in a perfect world, if everything lines up, we're hoping to get the Few and the Cursed to be able to influence the standard season before the Invincible drop in August. Yeah, cool. Skybound. Top Cow was originally targeted. So the big thing with the Top Cow release, the set's designed, the art's almost complete. The printing window is going to come around near the end of the year. We'd really like to target a January launch, but we're also trying to figure out still what is the best cadence for releases. I don't think that 4 sets is ever going to make sense for Overpower. And this goes back to what we were talking about with it being a character-driven game, that the meta takes so much longer to develop. Is, how many, if you have Skybound out for 4 months and then Top Cow drops, how many competitive events are you really playing in that you've gotten to try those characters with? It's like there's so many characters, and it's not like we're developed enough yet where there's a huge stakes event every weekend if you want to try a different deck. So it's really going to be a question of what we think the customers want as far as how long they want to play through a set before it gets dull to them, balanced against when they sort of want more cards and they feel like they've felt out what the meta is. I mean, I would say the ERB set seemed pretty fresh to me for at least 6 to 8 months before I started to feel like people were like, all right, we've kind of seen like, the standard like combat builds have come to the top, the shifty remove hit builds with Sun Wukong Wicked Witch have risen, and then the Joan of Arc builds. Those are sort of, I would say, the 3 most prominent archetypes we're seeing in Modern right now. But it took a while before we settled out to that, much longer than a regular set. So I would say realistically, you'll probably end up seeing Top Cow like late January into February. That's what we could have it out sooner, but that's where I'm thinking it's going to give players the best experience to really feel the old set.
Yeah, I think having time to breathe for sets is important. So I think that's great. You guys are cognizant of that.
Yeah. All right. What else we got, Andrew?
Rob, you want to take next one? Just go back and forth.
Yeah. Here's one I'm particularly interested in, and this is about play testing. What does the internal play testing process look like in terms of team size, duration? I mean, I don't know how much the average person knows about it.
Yeah. Well, so the way we've been running it is Keith Bursak's really the main person that's been spearheading that. The way it worked with Skybound was I think we had about a dozen teams, and it ranged from 4-person teams to Seattle. I mean, how many did you have, Andrew? Like 8 or 9?
Mm-hmm. We're capped. We've been told no more.
I'd say we had just over 100 people play testing that. Unfortunately, the Skybound window was a little shorter than we wanted because we did some printing originally back during the summer. So we had a last August window to get it all finished by. So it was I think we did about 8 weeks, Andrew? Was that it was a little bit of a truncated.
I think it was a little bit less than that. And it was also
weeks.
right before the Seattle regional. Yeah, so.
Yep. We were about to start the playtest with the Top Cow stuff, and honestly, that's been a little bit bottleneck just because of me. I've had some other stuff going on, and I haven't been able to give the official thumbs up. But that will have a much longer one, and the idea is with each subsequent playtest, we're trying to get it further and further out. You really want to be. You, in a perfect world as a CCG game, you want to be testing sets at least 2 years ahead of time. So you really have a long play time to finalize everything. And I think we'll be able to get there relatively quick. As soon as everybody comes on, we're bringing more of our people on full time every week. And so as soon as we get the full design team on full time and there's a lot more help to take pressure off the few of us that are doing it, we'll be able to really up that apparatus. But I guess to talk about the nuts and bolts of it, it's really the way we run it is we kind of give everybody the set at first and we say, do whatever you want for the first week or two, because we actually want to see what people gravitate toward and say, oh, wow, 80% of the people decided to play this character. Are they too strong? Are they just the most interesting? So partially we're kind of watching what people choose to play. Then we'll start to give a little bit of direction and just say, hey, group A, this was one from ERB. One of the groups immediately, 3 of their people built Joan of Arc deck with Cthulhu in the back. And they were just trying to double up on all the team coordinations. And they were doing allies into that, into 2 cards. And we, for a while, were really nervous about that deck because it was really dominating that one play group. And it's a very strong deck. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen it more in the meta for Modern. But once we started to spread it to the other groups, it just didn't end up being as widespread of a problem as we expected. But that's a good example of one group did something, and we keep the groups insular. and then we would email it out and say, hey guys, like we're seeing a little bit with this. Can you guys build this deck and try to break it with this? Build it the way you'd build it, but try to break double team coordinations. And we just go through that. And, sometimes it works great. Other times, like the Wicked Witch thing, I don't know why, but we had almost nobody test Wicked Witch. Mm-hmm. That just was not a character people were gravitating toward. And it was the least play-tested character from the original playtest run. Which is ironic because then, you turn around, it's like, yeah, defensive vertigo is broken. Like, we've known that since the Marauders. So even just having one is still going to make a level 8 character a playable character. But since that wasn't getting played, we weren't seeing it combo with Sun Wukong a lot. So, like, that deck just wasn't on our radar. And not to say it needed to be. Like, I don't think it's broken. Naturally, we had already started incorporating some characters that had abilities where their stuff can't be shifted. So there was already naturally Skybound characters that we were designing for the next 2 sets that have ways that are going to like throw a monkey wrench, no pun intended, into that deck. So that's sort of our process is people like play for the week. We have sheets that they fill out where they tell us like their characters, what their experience was, if they had fun with it, if they felt something was too strong, if they felt something took away their fun. We kind of have questions. Everybody fills them out and they just file it back. And then Keith and myself and sometimes the design team go through those each week. And then we decide if we want to like have certain groups test different things and that's really the process. We just, feed in, we evaluate, and then we send requests back out.
So are you guys on the, for example, Magic from vision design to like production is like 18 to 24 months. Is that kind of your range as well? Or are you more condensed?
It's definitely, we haven't been spending as long just because we didn't have as long, That's just been kind of the necessity. I think it's interesting because it's a catch-22. Our advantage is that we're a smaller team, so we're a little more agile. And we also, I think, designer to designer, there's no one, the design team, the average person's played this game for 25 years. So we come into it with such a huge amount of knowledge of the game. Not to say that Magic doesn't have that. They've got, their Wizards of the Coast has over 5,000 employees, I think, at this point. So, they certainly have plenty of people that have played Magic their whole lives. But, I lost the train of thought a little. What was the exact question? Sorry.
Yeah, just like your time from concept to send to the printer.
I would say we had a little bit of the sophomore effort going where we actually designed ERB for, I'd say about 2 years, because we didn't know exactly there was no timetable on when we had to launch it. So when we first got into it, of course, the first thing you want to do is design the characters. You're like, all right, are we going to do this? We're going to put a full set out. All right, like, here's the list. Let's get designing. So we were doing that for a year before we even, started to lock down where we were going to be able to print or anything. And I do think it really shows because I think we really got a lot of those designs with, so many micro tweaks to really get the balance right. Skybound happened a lot faster because we had that hard deadline to hit the first round of printing. But luckily, the sort of blessing in disguise was we actually talked to Skybound for almost a year and a half before we got the deal signed. So those contract negotiations take a while. And the second Skybound had told us, okay, we're interested, let's keep talking, they had the team just start designing immediately. And so we've done that. We have 2 sets now that we fully designed on spec where they could have easily come back and been like, yep, we're not going to work with you. And it's like, well, there's hundreds of hours of work down the drain. But luckily for that and for the set that's to be announced, both of them worked out and we got the contract signed. So, Skybound, while it did have a short playtest window, we designed it on paper before we started to do playtesting for at least a year. And Top Cow, which is coming out after, got started being designed before Skybound did. So that one had at least 2 years. We were doing internal play tests for Top Cow. Our first time we printed cards and did our LRG play test was over a year ago now. And that's still, we're still had been tweaking stuff recently before it's gone out to our group play test.
Nice. All right. When can we expect to see character spotlights or the full list of, Invincible Walking Dead so we can start theory crafting.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about just releasing the list of who's in it. That's I'll probably borrow that from you. So our character spotlight videos, our first one's finished. Our full commercial, our animated commercials finished. Our new VP of marketing that's completely crafting how our advertisements are going to go out is basically putting together the full schedule of where we're releasing it and how we're putting information out. I believe all that's going to start dropping within 2 weeks. I'm already seeing a ton of the places where we're going to be using the commercial, like at Gen Con and different places where we're going to have like screens playing it when people are walking around.
That's cool.
Yeah, the character spotlight videos are a little going to be more for something for the new website when that launches. But I think we're going to start our intention is to drop those, I think, pretty fast because we're trying to get 20 of them out before the thing drops, and then the remainder will come out after the set drops in the beginning of August.
I know Doug would love to hear more about kind of any marketing coming out in the future, so I'll throw Doug a bone here.
Everything. We've got full marketing kits for all the stores that we're putting together that are going to have trifold table numbers, window clings, posters for the store. So that's like a huge part of us helping the brick and mortar. We're doing, all the standards. When the site launches and we're officially like set up for Skybound, we'll have the digital assets that you can download to make the posters for your store if you want to hold events. Like that's a common thing that they do for every set of everything like Magic that comes out. We're definitely going to have that. All of that stuff should, again, Jonathan, our new guy's crafting it, but I really expect all of that to be happening within the next 2 weeks. So
I think that's something a lot of people are really looking forward to and seeing that material kind of out in the world. So it's coming, guys. It's coming, guys.
It's coming.
We're almost
everything. There. If there's one thing I've learned doing this, this is a field I've never been in, creating a product for market. Everything takes a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And so, it's funny I love how passionate the community is. Every time I see like a legitimate complaint or hand wringing, it's 100% of the time been something where in my head I'm like, it's not going to be a problem, just wait a little bit longer. You just have to be a little bit more patient. And then when something comes out, everybody's psyched with it and like is really happy with the result. That's all I'll say is, look guys, we waited for this thing for 30 years. We're going to do it right. So everything still might take longer, but when it happens, it's going to happen the right way and it's going to be really fun.
It's better than rushing it for sure.
So here's a question I kind of have seen pretty frequently. Crossover IPs, kind of the historical background traditionally has been like print media comics. Yes. What about crossovers, video games like say Borderlands, Street Fighter, Devil May Cry?
Yeah,
Mega Man.
I can pretty much guarantee the two things you're going to see from us are we're definitely having those conversations with video game companies to bring some of them in there. Some of them are further along than others. Some of them are in a pretty good spot. And then I definitely think what you're going to see us develop too is Overpower, an anime-themed series. So like you'll get an anime set sprinkled in. That's really important to us, not only because myself and people on the team love anime, but also like that's a way to really help develop and get the game popular in a lot of countries that anime is even bigger than it is here. So, things like I'd love to see like a Demon Slayer set or Jujutsu Kaisen characters, something like that, where we could start to mix in some of those anime properties that are super powerful. So I think at the heart of the game, we'll always want to do traditional print comics. There's never not going to be the goal of getting back to Marvel and DC and finishing up Image. But 100%. I mean, if I could put Cyclops and Ryu on a team like when I used to play Capcom vs. Marvel 2, come on. Of course I want to do that. That sounds amazing. I just want to design those characters for Overpower. I already have an idea. If we ever did a Street Fighter set and had Ryu in it, I want to make if Ken or Sagat's in it, I want to make the Hadoukens a level 4 attack that can be used for offense or defense. But if they ever block another Hadouken, both people can go search their deck for another Hadouken. So how you used to just throw the fireballs till somebody got hit? We have to decide how many are you putting in there? Are you going to put more than the other guy?
I'll be a Blanca main.
And that's the fun part about this. I think that's what gets people so excited. It gets us excited as designers. Is it's like, yeah, I want to use Blanca. How do we do his electricity shield? Like, if you hit him with an attack, does he get to go get a level 1 through 4 power card and hit you with it automatically? I don't know. Like, how does it work? Oh, that's what we've been throwing around ideas like that of like, how do we, is Dulcim a reserve character because he can like reach up and punch all the guys on the other guy's front line? Like, how do you do? I've been really trying to figure out how to do Chun-Li's kick. You know, yeah. If we ever got that property, I always like to joke with, I've told this story on a few panels. If you go next to my bed, you know those old black and white composition notebooks like they used to like get for school? I literally have a stack of like 7 of them. And if you open them up, it just looks like the scratchings of a lunatic in a mental institution writing on the walls. And it's like full books of designs for things we haven't even locked in yet. So there's designs for DC, for Marvel, for a new Spawn, for video game properties. Like, that's what my brain thinks about all day, is every time I'm doing something, like, how would poison work? Like, how can I make a boomerang feel like a boomerang? How does, like, somebody covered in electricity work? What's a mechanic we can use? So, yeah, I would love to do a lot of those properties.
That'd be sick.
Can you tease something that might be coming up, speaking of properties?
I'm trying to be better about not leaking the property, so I can't. We've got a guy now who's crafting this entire strategy, and no, I can. I got to start being a little tight-lipped about that. I'll spoil cards all day because there's a lot of those, and it gets people excited. But what I will say
we had
is
to try.
That's right.
I think the thing I'm most excited about right now is every set the art's just stepping up. You know, the art for Skybound has been incredible. Oh, actually, you want to see something cool? I will spoil something. Hold on. I got a little something right here I can spoil. This is actually something I don't think that would be too big of a deal. This is the actual off-the-line print of the flow wrap packages for Skybound. Let me see if I can line this up.
People listening on it, it's the foil packages that the cards come in. There's Adam Eve, there's Omni-Man, and Invincible. Oh, these look great. And is that the Ray-Tan art on the Invincible? Yeah, and
so it's the Ray-Tan art on both of those, and then I actually, I'm pretty good usually because I work with all these guys. I can't remember who did this Adam Eve.
Yeah, so we're seeing the Ray-Tan 7 on the Invincible pack, the Omni-Man from the kind of the menacing in the storm art, and then an art from Adam Eve, which looks great as well.
Yeah,
I like how the wrapping complements the color scheme.
Yep, there was a lot of debate about who to put on the packs and what colors to use, so it was tough because we really liked those 3 looks the best, but we were like, there's no Walking Dead character on any of the packs though, but we ended up we ended up thinking those were like the coolest for the foil look, which makes sense. Like the guy that shoots the girl that has pink energy blasts and stuff, and the guys in the bright colored superhero costumes are going to pop a little more on the foil.
For sure. Speaking of arts, I have a 3-part question for you. So
yes.
How are artists selected? What's their typical workload? Like, how many pieces do they do? And how can aspiring artists apply to work with you if they were interested?
Yeah. One of the things I really pride myself on is being willing to work with anyone if it's the style and quality that we like. We're not so big yet that I've had to filter stuff out. And we've actually worked with a lot of people who've brought portfolios or come to talk to us at cons. Now, I'm sure at some point that's not going to be realistic, but the way it started when we were doing the NAOL League, back when it was still the NAOA, the North American Overpower Association, that's what we started it as. We were getting the idea that we wanted to do this as a business, that there was some legs, probably 7 years ago. And we actually spent, when Dave and Keith and I originally did it, we made a deal that we were all putting a significant amount of money in to do the initial steps to try to get all the rights to it. And this was during COVID. People didn't have jobs. Spouses were not Not everybody thought it was a good idea. And even the lawyer kind of said, most likely you're going to waste this money. Like, the odds that this is going to work out are pretty low. But we just believed. I don't know. We just had a gut feeling that there was something here that we could do. So we put the money down. We started working with an IP lawyer. It took us over a year to secure the rights. There was a whole story most people don't even know about, where a dude made a video game for his senior project called Overpower, but was like super overzealous and was like, I'm going to register all the rights to this video game. And the trademark people don't differentiate between tabletop and video game. They are like, well, it's the same thing. You can't have it. And now this kid's project was over 10 years old, but we had to like fight that. We had to do a legal challenge and see if the kid was going to try to keep the rights to it and wait to, like, it was like a bunch of, and even with that one, the lawyer was like, there's a way we can do it that'll take 2 more years, but we'll 100% get it. Or we can do a fight now and he'll have a chance to fight it, but it should only take like 3 or 4 months. And again, like, we had to make that call and just be like, we can't wait 2 more years to do this. We got to take a shot at it. We've already spent the money. So yeah, there was a lot of like those hurdles with everything when we came up. But to get back to the art question, those are just fun stories. While all that was going on, I was just going to every fan site I could find for art. Literally just like any place people were posting their own art, and I would just tag anybody I saw. So Raymond Gay, who did our Witchblade in Darkness playmats, and he did like the ultra rare King Arthur and the rare version of Hercules that have the similar looks. He was actually just starting to do his like IDW Ninja Turtle covers and wasn't doing like a ton of stuff yet. And I actually just saw him he posted these like some of the sickest Spawn things, drawings I've ever seen of Violator and characters. And so I just started messaging him and I was like, we're going to do this project. Your shit's amazing, on Facebook. And got to know him. And then, yeah, he ended up doing a bunch of pieces for us. And then Top Cow was looking for a new artist to try to pick up some of the work. He was the first name I gave him. I was like, you got to check this kid out. He did amazing stuff for us for ERB. And he's actually one of the main artists for The Darkness now on that book because of what he did for Overpower, which is awesome.
Way cool.
So much so that I haven't been able to get him to commit to any Top Cow pieces yet. Let's all email him and tell him we want him back, because he's super busy now. Even some of the people at Top Cow were like, don't give him he's so busy. And I'm like, all right. Fine. But there was a lot of that. Bella Racklin, who does our painted pieces, I just did a great panel with her out in Chicago talking about the art for C2E2. She's somebody I just would watch her videos of her drawing X-Men characters, and I was like, that's sick. I want her to draw some stuff for us. And then there's studios. We've got the great relationship with Joe Prado Studios, and he's got so many talented artists. We work with Kirby Comic Studios. A lot of her artists she's got probably 8 to 12 artists that are working with us for each set. So I think each set, I would say we average about 30 to 35 different artists doing work for us. You asked about workload. It's really dependent on the artist. I'd say the average is 3 pieces a week. So usually what I'll do is at the Sunday when I have downtime or into Monday, I email every single artist. I assign them pieces. I have to spend a lot of time looking at the mechanics and trying to figure out what I want the art to be. And that's a very time-consuming process that'll be taken over by our new creative director that we're bringing on. So we just hired a full-time creative director for all the art in the graphic design. It's actually the guy that's been doing all the graphic design for us the whole time. So he's going to be coming on full-time, hopefully. But yeah, so we come up. He'll help me sometimes, but we say like, okay, Ripclaw has a card named Hemorrhage. How do we want to represent that? Like, all right, let's pick out, in the first 20 issues, he fights the Order of the Silent a few times. Let's use one of those guys. And we haven't seen like a close-up of him. Let's make him behind the guy. And what's been so great about these artists is, this comes from my experience because I spent 25 years working in film and television, and I would watch these amazing directors. I was very privileged to get to work with, Scorsese, Clint Eastwood, when he's directing, like a lot of the directors that are considered the greats. Sorry, I'm going to cough here. Sorry, a lot of talking. And I would watch the really good ones all had the same strategy with actors where they would say, okay, here's the script. This is what I want to come out of this. I want to evoke a feeling of sadness. I want the DP is going to be using filters. This is going to have a golden look to it. So I want you to act like more melancholy. And like he would describe what it's going to look like and he would describe what he wants. And then, you step back and you let the actors do the thing that they're good at. You don't try to tell them how to deliver a line, And when you do that and you do it right, 99 times out of 100, you get magic back. you get different takes and you get things that they do that accomplish your goal that's not what you would have told them to do. And it takes a certain level of trust and maturity in your artists. And I've carried that over directly into what we do with the drawings. You know, I'll say, I kind of know what I want. I want, like, we don't have quite enough close-ups. And this shot through the scope of a sniper rifle really makes sense for a close-up, but you go from there. Or, you know, this, like, I need it to be like a hurricane, and I want to see like a Quinjet style jet getting ripped apart, and I want this person in the Tempest from the Strike Force in the center of it, like with her hands in the air, and handling it the same way. It's like Christmas morning constantly, the amount of every time I see an artist email and I open it, because these artists now have really come into their own for expressing themselves through the art, and just like, and it seems like they enjoy it the more that they have the ability to kind of create the compositions and express themselves the way they want to. We just really get magic back from them. This art, for what I was starting to say before, the art for the Skybound is a real step up. The Edgar Rice Burroughs set had amazing art. I love the art in that set. Skybound was like a huge step up just because we had so many new artists and a little more time and a little more budget. And I sort of felt like, well, we already now with Skybound, in my opinion, are going to have the best art in TCGs. And I feel like Top Cow is that much more of a step up. This art that's coming out of the Top Cow set is like, just some of the pictures that these guys are sending through are just like, I'll put it this way. Every company we've worked for, I'm always warned, like, the approval process is going to be so hard, you guys. These companies are so strict. You're working with their IPs, their babies. You got to... In 300... We made over 300 original pieces of art for Skybound, and overall we got 12 notes. Total. Like, of the entire set. And one of them was like, hey, look in the deep background. The guy didn't draw the symbol on Adam Eve's chest. Like, it was stuff like that. So, and the same thing with Top Cow, you know, like, even internally, they were like, guys, we're so picky about the art. Like, we've tried to work with other partners and we don't like the art they do. And the same idea, every piece we've sent them has gotten approved without notes. So I think it just goes to show you we, like, really give a shit about the quality of what we're doing and doing justice for the fans of those characters. So the Ripclaw art is really so good.
So it's not the Games Workshop treatment that you're getting?
I don't know that. I mean, I know Games Workshop. I'm not sure what the reference on that one is.
So they are notoriously, like, very controlling to, like, a micromanaging standpoint.
No.
Like,
yeah.
So,
no.
Like, the kind of
I think
that will give you lots of notes, even maybe if you don't really need them.
Yeah. No, we've been very lucky so far. Both, I don't think we could have asked for better initial partners than Skybound and Top Cow. They're both amazing to work with, and I love their properties, and getting to just create something original in that space with these characters has been a dream come true. So I hope I think the fans are going to be so blown away by the Top Cow art.
I've got one more that I'm interested. So, thinking about Skybound, who is your pick for I don't think there's a quote unquote best, but like the character you think people are immediately going to look at and gravitate towards?
Well, I'll tell you what I think's going to happen, but I don't think it's because they're the best. I think people already know the archetypes that work, and they're going to try to figure out the next thing that goes with it. So I think you're going to see combat characters initially. Like, I think you'll see Rick Grimes in a lot of decks. I think he's a very good, like, mid-range character with support abilities, which is how I phrase it he's the first subject of the first character spotlight video coming out. He's got some cool stuff to do. I think we have a combat character that has a full negate in the Skybound set. So I think, like, there's a natural way you're going to see him on some decks. But I think what you'll also really see is some of the other power types come into their own. I think having a 17-point energy character with a 7 stat is going to open energy up a lot. I think the biggest struggle with energy was that character to character, they were a little more expensive, and we didn't have any max 7s that were less than 18. That makes it pretty tough to play. Whereas, like, Combat had a max 17-pointer. That was a good reserve character. You know, that was a lot of the reason that deck saw so much play. So I think you'll really see the other power types open up, which is, I think, what's going to really start to make it interesting.
Brute Force fans, stay tuned.
Yeah, well, I mean, geez, if there's one set that's going to really bring Brute Force up to speed, it's the Invincible set. That's, if anything, the struggle was to have characters who weren't Brute Force in that set, because, like, so many of them are super strength characters. Yeah, I mean, Omni-Man is a staple 23-pointer. You're going to see Omni-Man decks built around him. He's, like, very powerful. You're going to see, we've got another 8/7 character, like Cthulhu. We've got a 23-point Battle Beast who's 8 combat, 7 brute force. You'll definitely see him make some appearances. But I think Intellect, like, actually, who one I'll call right off the bat? I think one of the characters that you'll see a lot early on is Duplicate. I think Duplicate has a very good mechanic for getting a bunch of speed bumps in front of herself and other characters. And I think it's a really fun competitive strategy that, like, doesn't take a lot of, you don't have to, like, pair it with anything. It's, like, not a complicated strategy. I think you'll see a lot of Duplicate early on, and then I think you'll start to see what a lot of is naturally built into the set is I think you're going to start to see more KL effects being used on characters. And there's a decent amount added to this set as well. I think people are going to start to realize that non-numerical negating and KLs, that's where their strength is coming from. We see a lot of cards like Harness the Wind and Early Feminist Leader dominating the meta, and then the people who are talking about that turn around and still, like, don't want to play an offensive negate on Sherlock Holmes. It's like, like, there's nothing, that Feminist Leader card's so broken. It's like, you literally are playing a character that you could have 3 extra chances to get rid of it. So I think it's, what's interesting too is, like, I've been doing a lot of Learn to Play events for our Boston group, and the flip side happens is new players right away tend to gravitate toward those cards because they're like, well, I got to have something to get rid of all those, like, remainder of game effects. And so it's really interesting to see new players come in who don't have the history of people saying, like, Little Iceman sucks, don't play it. You shouldn't put that in your deck. And so they're just like, well, no, I want to get rid of all these powerful remainder of game effects. So yeah, I think that's going to be one of the really exciting things about Skybound is just having a flood of fresh blood, all doing, hopefully what Andrew did with the Galactus deck, just being like, hey, I saw something nobody else saw, I'm going to bring this. I think that's going to make it super fun.
We love that. We love seeing new creative stuff.
Well, I love seeing you guys do so well at the events too. Like, look, I love everybody who plays and I'm always super psyched for whoever wins. But it's fun coming in and watching players who used to just, watching a Phil Keffer and a Marcel come in and having to really be like, every game is tough now. I think Marcel was saying that directly to me, where he's like, he was saying to me in a side conversation a few events ago, there's no gimmies anymore, He's like, we always, like, respect everybody, but there were definitely, like, games where you'd sit down and just be like, oh, I've got, like, more experience than this player, I'm probably going to win. And Marcel now will very openly be like, I don't have that thought at any game I sit down in anymore because there's so much more video to watch. There's so many more tutorials. There's so much more Overpower being played in general that, like, the average player is so much more elevated than they used to be. And we're seeing a lot of you guys winning events. Like, Ricky's going undefeated at PAX Unplugged. Justin's pulling out, if he's not winning, he's second or third in a lot of the events. Andrew, you won Boston. Now you're the national champ. Jessica went undefeated the day of the Nationals. Mm-hmm. She's only been playing for a year, like even barely a full year. And so
Nor's always so super solid showing.
Yeah. And just there's so many of those types of people. Like I was just saying about Lawrence, Lawrence hasn't spiked his event yet, but it's coming. Like every game, I remember I played a killer game against him we both did the Second Chance event at a Columbus like 3 years ago and played for a box and just had a match that was like untimed, and we must have been 20 hands into the power pack before one of us finally like got through, and I ended up taking it down, but it was like, and now he's beating me and I love it. Like, it's great. I really love seeing people that started the game after it was out of print that are like winning tournaments. That to me, I never thought I would see that. When we started this tournament league and like Dave, the twins started to play, Dave's in-laws, it was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, these guys are getting into it. Wow, somebody might win who like didn't play back in the day, and now it's like commonplace because you didn't really play, right, Andrew?
No.
You've sort of discovered it after the relaunch, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, played a little bit with my dad, but yeah, not just one opponent, nothing meta at all. We didn't know what the Cadillac was until he told me that, oh, this is a deck people are playing. He played it and just crushed me. I was like, that is a pretty good deck, but then it makes you better. You learn some stuff. Yeah, we're
Oh
playing
man,
match
I tell
sevens.
you, when we used to train for events for years when we first got back into it, we just every player in my Boston group had a Cadillac standing. And like anytime you built a new deck, it's like, well, the first thing you're doing is playing the Cadillac because you're going to see it 10 times. So
Gotta test against that.
we would always drill against the Cadillac. So
That's smart. So are there any plans in the future to do any special type of foiling or serialized cards?
foiling 100%. So, I don't want to use the word boring, but I think that we kept it pretty standard on the Invincible set where it's just the cards in the rare slot. Now, what we are doing, and I think it's going to happen now, is what we're doing for the prize packs, instead of having them be cards that you can't find in the set, we actually just took all the common characters and all 6 of their specials, and we're foiling all of those, and you can just you're going to get randomly 5 foil cards in every prize pack.
Ooh,
and then there's
cool.
going to be 15 unique heroes that are like new character cards like we did too that'll come in foil that you can only get in the prize packs. But basically the prize packs are just going to be a foil palooza of like, you might get a bunch of characters or mixes. They're truly random, and it's just all the characters and all the specials, and
That's
then the
sick.
extra character cards. So we're really trying to make it incentivized to go in and get those prize packs and try to collect like your favorite characters and stuff. We're printing a lot of them, so we're hoping we can really like try to give a lot of them out and get people to a lot of events. In the packs though, it is just going to be the rares and the ultra rares, just in the slot, just the silver foil. But what we are doing, that's going to change for Top Cow, which we're going to have different kinds of foils. We're really trying to do this signature series, which has been my dream for the rare cards for a while, is have ones with a press signature filled in with gold or filled in with silver. Yeah, so when you get the artists like doing those big palettes, we can actually put their signature like in the bottom in gold or something. That's something I really want to have too for a type of rare. So we are definitely... James Sanderson, our head of organized play, is actually designing the foil plan for the Top Cow set to start to expand that. And eventually, if we ever get to a point where we can have a dedicated production line, if we grow in size enough, which is not a crazy amount of growth, we may get there after a couple of sets. If we ever get to the point where we do set up our own production line at one of the printing facilities, I want to get back to the character stacks. There was really something there, and I'm so sad that we can't do it for the sets that we're doing right now. It's a real bummer. But I'd love to get back to those.
I don't think people understand the effort that it takes to correlate that many cards like all together is such a huge undertaking.
Well, I think it's such a simple problem too, but it like cascades. It's just, if you need a machine to drop cards quickly so you can have a production line, it can always drop one super accurately. Everything's designed to drop a card. As soon as you're dropping groups of cards, it's not going to hit 100%. And then the question is, where do you go from there? Like, what's your percentage? How high can I get it? The most common thing is it drops 5 cards or it drops 7 cards. Well, one of the problems is if you have the character stack. So the way you deal with that, if say you have no foil and if you drop an extra card, we have really sensitive scales, and it'll be like, that's 1 card light. That one's 1 card heavy, and it just blows those packs off the line. You don't have to worry about anything. But the scales are so sensitive that now if you add foil stacks in, well, the amount of foil of 1 character stack is equal to 1 card. So now you can't use the scales to tell if your packs are off or not. So having that in there means you have to come up with a completely different way to verify that the packs are right. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but it just keeps getting more and more complex from there. But it's stuff that I spend like hundreds of hours dealing with and flying to Texas and designing these production lines. And it's stuff that people just don't have an insight for as to what we're doing. And that's why I always chuckle when we get certain people online that like to be like, well, you should just do this. Like, I don't understand why you're not doing this. And it's like, there's probably a reason, man.
Well, let me tell you.
It's not because we just don't want to make the cards the funnest way we can.
You got any more? We're starting to run long here, but
Yeah. Let me do two more. As long as Joe doesn't mind.
I know, I'm great.
So aside from cons, and you talked about those kits a little bit for local game stores.
Mm-hmm.
What is there anything else plan wise to help reach the, hundreds of thousands of people that these IPs support and help to blow this up?
Yeah, we're exploring a lot of the traditional paths that we did. So definitely, like you saw with sorry, I'm completely spacing on it now, not GTS, the ICV2. We had the promo card in that magazine. That was the Philip Tan 7 Any Power. We got a ton of traction on that. That was really one of the things that started to turn the stores around, is they saw us in there, and so I believe it's the issue that comes out pretty soon. We're doing I think it's either the front cover or the back cover. So we've got a big ICV2 ad. We're working with the comic book companies to start putting ads in there. We're hopefully going to be able to start doing special card inserts in the new Skybound books and the new Top Cow books. So we've got, physical print ads that we're doing. A lot of the podcasty type stuff. So we're, once we start getting product off the line, we're going to do a lot more of box openings and interviews with podcasters that have a big outreach. I think one of the big things we're going to start doing too, though, is the ambassador program. That's the thing that got put on hold that we're starting back up. And so James and our marketing head, Jonathan, are finalizing that. And that's going to be where, now that we have the merch store, we're starting to expand it to get more stuff. We're going to start having the playmats and a lot of the stuff for Skybound. And the idea for the ambassador program is going to be, the reason we put it on hold is because we couldn't incorporate it with cardio the way we wanted to, which we are able to do with Top Deck. And Top Deck's almost fully set up the way we want to do it. So we're going to be able to do something where, Andrew, you say, I want to teach people in Seattle how to play. Basically exactly what you guys have been doing. Everybody, you sign up, you do the ambassador test. It's relatively easy if you're familiar with the game. Every person you get to sign up for a Top Deck account, you give them your reference code and you get credit for that. And then that credit is going to be something that translates into store credit, where you can go right on the store and just buy playmats and anything that you want using the credit you earned for teaching the game.
That's
and
sick.
so yeah, that's going to be a really important part of us building out the community.
Sweet. All right, last one. How can Overpower members in general, besides the stuff you just mentioned, add the most value to help the game grow?
We're actually going to be putting a big ad out about this, but I think the best thing that people can do right now, if you want to be doing something helpful, is just repost everything we post. Anything you see that's Overpower, take it. Just get used to going and put it on your Facebook, put it on your Instagram, put it on your Blue Sky if you have one. Just whenever you see Overpower, just get the word out there, because the unfortunate reality nowadays is all of the algorithms look at how many people are sharing it. And the more they share it, the more they show it to more people, so the more it gets shared. And so we're going to kind of start to do a call to action for the community, but this can be the first time it's going out. If you see something that's Overpower, share it on your personal pages and get more outreach. And as soon as there's a few hundred people doing it, the algorithm then actually shows those ads to tens of thousands more people than have been seeing it. And that's really, I think with every CC, the biggest hurdle is people don't want to invest time, money, and energy into something they're not going to be able to play a year from now. And I think that's always going to be the biggest hurdle is, I don't want to spend money. I'll just wait a year. If this is still around, maybe I'll get into it. But the problem is, if too many people do that, then it's not going to be around. But I mean, look at what we're seeing in the industry with Altered came out and had an $8 million Kickstarter. Until the runner game that just launched came out, it was the most successful game Kickstarter in Kickstarter's history, I believe. And that game came out 18 months ago, and it just announced it's dead. Big $8 million launch, biggest Kickstarter for a TCG ever, and they didn't develop organized play. They didn't have prize support. They didn't have any kind of incentive program. They didn't give people a reason to want to play. And then as soon as people went, oh, people aren't playing this, well, I'm not going to spend money on it because I don't want I don't want to have another box of cardboard sitting over there that I can't use. So that's really what it is letting people understand that we've done the work with the NAOL for the last 10 years to make sure that that's not what Overpower is. That's what differentiates us from the crowd of CCGs that are just trying to be pumped out right now. Is we're not trying to just get those initial sales. We actually limited where ERB could be sold so we could develop the infrastructure to make Skybound successful.
Sweet. Share and
It's good
repost
hearing
everything.
more about that strategy. So I think that was the first time I had heard it explained in that manner.
Yeah. And that's a lot of like why we do some of the stuff the way we do. It's market research and just sort of, I know we've gone long, but this is a fun story I always like to tell because I actually told this kind of to everybody when they come on. So, my background and Dave's background, we both studied political science, and I was actually interested in doing what Dave McMillan does, being an emergency manager. That was where I was going to go after my film career. And I remember reading a book called Bureaucracy it was one of the most fascinating books I read because it was about learning the right lessons. So there's a really popular Facebook meme that goes around where it shows an airplane and it talks about an instance in World War II where the planes were coming back and they would have bullet holes in the wings and the tail and near the propeller. And so initially they would armor those places up. And then finally somebody realized and said, you know what, we should be armoring up the places that don't have the bullet holes.
Yeah.
Because if those places get shot, that must be why the planes are crashing. And it's this idea of learning the right lessons. And the one that I learned from the book that was really interesting was there was a prison in Texas, and I forget what the name of the prison was, but they essentially had the worst of the worst demographics. So the most violent people, every demographic of race you can imagine, just like every other maximum security prison. But this one in Texas was the worst. And they got this new warden in like the late 80s, early 90s, I believe it was. And what he did is he said, okay, I've got the same punishments for everything. If you fight, whatever, you're going to go in the hole. But the one thing he did that was different is he said, if you break anything or like damage the property here, make the environment worse, then you're going into solitary for like an amount of time that the inmates were like, well, I'm just not going to break stuff. Like, I break a TV, I don't want to spend 6 months in solitary. What happened is after he did that and everybody said, well, we're just not going to damage the area, he was able to take the money they saved on repairs and start to put in plants and beautify and make the place something that people could actually be proud of. And what you started to see was a flip in the attitude of people being like, hey, you know what, like I'm at this prison and look, it's actually nice here, I don't want to mess it up. I think it was within 2 or 3 years, they went from being the worst prison in the nation to being the maximum security prison with the least amount of violence. And it was the same people. But once they got this pride in the world around them, then they didn't do those things. He ends up retiring after a certain amount of time, and they bring in another like traditional warden that just said, that stuff's stupid. Hired more guards, got rid of all the programs, and within 6 months it was the most violent prison in the nation again. And it's just kind of that idea of like learning the right lessons, like this guy came in and saw an alternative way to do it, and he actually took the time and they were able to create something that everybody appreciated. But everybody that was involved in it kind of got the positive benefit from it. But then you got somebody from the outside that doesn't really get what the strategy is, and they go, no, that's stupid. I'm just going to hire more guards, and these guys are prisoners. They don't deserve this and that. And then they didn't learn that right lesson, and he got terrible results. And I really like to think about those strategies when I think about what we're going to do for the game or how we're going to develop stuff. Like, what's our equivalent to, like, armoring the right places of the plane or making sure people feel pride? Like, this is our game. We try to make it a really positive community on the Discord. We try to keep everything really positive with what we put out social media-wise. We try to create events that I think, I don't think this game gets to where it is if we don't create a community of friends and people that want to... we look forward to seeing each other at a card game event. Do you know anybody that flies to a Magic event and is excited about seeing people from 20 different states? I don't think that's a thing in CCs, and I hope that we find a way to translate that community to the larger scale when we get more people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thanks for sharing that. I think just the communal feel that you get out of Overpower, I hope as it grows, it doesn't lose that kind of small feel character. I mean, you can be large and still have that aura, and I really hope that it continues.
I do too. It's very important to us that we're sharing that experience through as many people as we can. And look, like, I don't want to talk about politics or anything, but whatever side you're on, I think we can all agree it has been a number of years for a long time that has created a ton of stress for pretty much every person in the country. It's nice to be able to create an environment that I feel like gives something positive that's completely divorced from the stress of the world around us that we've all been seeing. I think we need that.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. Well, we'll close on a happy note there. So
thanks so much for being here, Joe. You're the man.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you.
Anytime. And when we get a little closer too, definitely, like, I'd love to keep feeding you guys. I think you guys will have plenty to talk about with our character spotlight videos, but we'll definitely feed you guys some more content for you as well. So keep listening, everybody.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I mean, I know Andrew and I will definitely be theory crafting some stuff when we kind of see some of the final versions. So we're excited to see them.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to head to bed. It is 2 a.m. on my coast.
Yeah. So that'll do it for us. Thanks, everyone, for listening, supporting. Come to the NAOL Western Shootout in Houston. Come say hi to Joe. Come say hi to me. The Prodigy, the champion himself, may not be there, but maybe you can catch him in Columbus, June 27th, for the next large LRG regional. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.